Victoria. I'm the marketing specialist at Hasmark, and I'm joined by Jen, our director of marketing and publishing. And today we are speaking with Kathy, who I thought she was the hardest person to introduce because she lives her life with this vibrancy, this fun that just kind of seems to follow her around. And yes, I'm sure there's hard times. You'll learn a little bit about that in her book, but she moves through it with such, and I don't want to say grace because grace feels heavy and smooth, but just with such joy. And she has a quite unique story that she's going to share with us with a pretty unique topic that anyone who ever bonded with a pet will resonate 1,000,000%. So, Kathy, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being with us on our interview with you.
Thank you. My pleasure. I've been looking forward to this. And I have a little visitor with me today. This is Sally, who just kind of decided she wanted to be a lab cap as of yesterday.
Well, we'll have her. I know she's not the only one in your world because your book is called Memoir of a Crazy Cat Lady. And obviously, it's a bit of it's a phrase we all know very well. But tell me, what inspired you to use it and to take it and really make it into something incredibly unique for you?
Well, it was about, I guess, maybe about 5 years ago. I was walking around our local park, and it was during, we called it a teacher trainer study hall. I had become an animal communicator at that point, and periodically on a Saturday, some of us would get together on Zoom and we'd work on some of our projects, whether with websites or whatever it might be. And then we'd take a pause and then come back and have some accountability with each other. So I chose to go for a walk that day. And this little topic popped into my head of what is it that people are interested in from the ages of about 6 to 12. And that's usually a good indicator that they are doing their life's work if it's, if they're doing something that was familiar at that time. And I don't know why that popped into my head, but I just had this thought that, gosh, I used to love to write. And I'd never developed that skill in my life. I, chosen the route with music and other interests, but I love to write. And then I had all these cat stories in my head that I've been, swimming around with for so many years. And I just kind of said to myself, gosh, I've got so many cat stories, I could write a book. And I continued walking around the park. And then I sat down on the bench near the stream. And then it's like this light bulb went off. It's like, oh my gosh, I have so many cat stories. I really think I should write a book. And could I even do that? And so I had some paper with me. I jotted down all these chapters I could write. So it was only going to be cat, some of my cat stories. And then I started doing that, but then time went by and it kind of morphed. It turned into my spiritual journey as well. And it's like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I just feel like, compelled to write more and more stories. So I would write them all. Often it was when I was out hiking and I would just find a place up in the mountains and I'd sit and write a chapter. And then I realized that my spirituality and life experiences were starting to merge with the cat stories. And there was a connection there. And it really took the full 5 years before it unfolded till I figured out exactly what, I was being called, which I believe I was being called to write this book. So everything came together at that point, and I didn't intend to have this many cats in my life. I think I had like over 25, and then numerous others I've crossed paths with or helped. And it's like, well, I guess I qualify. I'm a crazy cat lady. I never thought about it, and some people are conscious about it, or uncomfortable being called that, but to me, I just kind of laugh about it because it happened in such a funny way. So that's kind of how I started writing the book, and here I am, another
And
cat in my lap.
but what I love most about your story is because I got to see you in the tail end. And even up until the day you said, I'm done with the editing, it's ready to be made into its final file type of thing. It's almost like everything happened so organically. I don't think you could have ever planned it, or you could have thought about that this is the outline of the book I need to write and then write it per se. And that's so magical to witness as well.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun as the stories unfolded, and Yeah, I'm an animal communicator. Well, the subtitle of my book is My Journey from Air Force Musician to Animal Communicator. So there is a journey in there. And when I got exposed to the idea of energy fields around living matter, particularly with a book called The Secret Life of Plants that my brother actually introduced me to, that changed my view of everything. I started to realize why I would be so sensitive around animals um, and people just intuitively an empath, I guess I am. But I was picking up energy fields, and that's how I would describe it now. Which basically, I'm picking up emotions and feelings from everything around me, and it was driving me crazy. I didn't know what was wrong with me or what it was, and really nothing wrong with me. That's just my nature and my makeup. And now I understand what I'm doing, and so that kind of steered me in the direction of the topics, which wound up being, excuse me, exploring the ideas of reincarnation. First with myself, and I have a very traditional Christian background, and it was not anything I was exposed to, or but I just thought, I'm going to explore myself. So I did, and I found some answers for myself, and that's when I started seeing the connections with my cats and maybe previous ones I've had, and it got kind of uncanny. So I just explored a little bit more. And then as I became an animal communicator, a lot of things continued to happen, these synchronicities and outlandish situations. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be writing about animal reincarnation. Everybody is going to think I'm a total weirdo, until I realized, no, this is just fascinating. This is an awesome experience I'm having, and I just want other people to be able to ask their own questions, and especially those of us that love animals so much. um there aren't a lot of answers in the spiritual aspect of our upbringing, probably, so why not just ask questions? And being a communicator has helped me come to some of these answers, in my own life anyway.
Sorry, you kind of just answered it, but we'll ask again. What was the moment that made you realize there was a deeper connection happening with the over 25 cats that you've had in your life? Something beyond the everyday pet owner relationship.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's all linked to that. And there was one cat I had that used to come up around myself and a gentleman friend that would come over to see me periodically, and we were very close. And this cat would always show up when he was around, and it's like, gosh, that's just so weird. None of my others did, and he just, and so on and on and on. So when I had the past life regressions, when I experienced those, the one in particular, I wanted to find out if this man and I had had a relationship in a previous life. So I, was kind of, that was one of my intentions going to the regression. Um, and the way that worked out, it was a obvious yes, but there was an animal in that regression that I saw, and the names in that regression, and I realized there was a connection with that cat and him and me previously. And so I started, thinking, oh my gosh, I think, this cat might have been with us at another time, because it was just weird how he would just show up. Even his end of life was a similar, type thing. And so then I started looking around at my other cats and thinking, do I have any other little quirks or things that would indicate maybe they've been with me before? And then the pieces started falling into place, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then now in hindsight, as I look back on my life, I believe that I had so many so that they could come back and come back, so that I would put the connections together with them, and be able to share my stories, I guess.
I love that you were able to pick that up in your life. And part of me wonders, on the topic of animal reincarnation, and would anyone else be able to do that after reading your book? Or do you have any tips on what should we look out for to see those signs, those synchronicities?
Mhm. It's interesting because when I've talked about my book with a lot of different people, I have so many comments that come back to me like, I have this animal that I kind of am suspicious because I'm seeing some similarities. And it's like, it's for me, it's the deeper level. Now I recognize that there's a deeper level connection that some animals I feel closer to than others. And now for me, I've realized that animal's probably been with me more than once because I have a closer bond to that one, like immediately. And then there's some little behavior quirks. That just maybe a little thing. And a couple of my cats, they have similar end of life scenarios. That's just outlandish. I mean, hanging across the street in my neighbor's front porch, really, right before they died. And both had the similar, respiratory thing and the similar, but the core essence of that animal is really, for me, the determinator. And that particular cat, that was Pumpkin and Mr. Peabody. And I'm gonna get all teary-eyed thinking about these guys, but they their essence was such that they wouldn't harm a flea. They had such a beautiful spirit. They were so joyful and they wouldn't harm a flea. And so that's helped me, connect them. um how would I describe that animal? And that's, when I recognize that they've come back, that's the bond that I feel at the deeper level. They have different personalities, certainly, but I also look at it like I have evolved since I had them previously, and their little spirits, little souls have evolved also, whether it's on the other side, of life before they come back. Um, but so our relationship is not going to be the same, but there's the love and the bond that's there inside that's the same. And that's what I've loved about this. So anyway.
So there's a lot of vulnerability in your story, grief, loss, and questioning. What helped you keep writing through the hard parts?
Um, I've always been one of my qualities, how I would describe myself, is like unwavering perseverance, and which means I'm really stubborn and really determined. And I've always been that way. And maybe I get it from my mom. I don't know, but it's a quality that has served me well in my life because I don't quit. I keep going. I've always done that. I've always pressed on. Having been a musician, I was very disciplined in my practice regimens, and I don't quit. I want to find answers. I've always, been a seeker, and it's like I feel like there's more of a message here, and so I have to keep moving on. I've always been drawn to healing, and different modalities of healing, different different ways to stay healthy. And so I'm always, looking for something that will aid in that discovery. And so I had to persevere through the deaths of all of these cats, and my horse Jake, who died the morning I enrolled in my first animal communication course. It was another synchronicity. But now on the other side of it, I've learned techniques to help process all the grief and the loss that I've been through and experienced with the cats. And I get to do this now with other people as an animal communicator. One of the energy healing modalities is the EFT tapping that uses acupressure points to process emotions that are stuck in the body. I do this with animals, and I do it with people. I try to keep it with animal related trauma, but it's helped a lot of people go back through their end of life scenarios that maybe were painful with the animal. Sometimes it happens quickly and we don't see it coming, and then suddenly we're without this animal who's been with us for 18, 20 years, and all of a sudden they're not there. And there's a tremendous amount of guilt that can accompany that. So I've worked through that. And then also, I can communicate with animals that have crossed over. And it's one of my absolute favorite things I love to do as a communicator, because it helps people, again, with the end of life things. And every experience I've had of that has been so beautiful that it's like they still feel the connection and knowing that there's more. And, some of their questions will get answered, and that there's hope. And so I had a session with a gal a couple weeks ago with a dog that had recently passed, and it was not expected, but yet it was at the same time. Um, and she was having a really difficult time, processing all of that. So I did a beautiful round of tapping with her afterwards. And she, a lot of her grief was able to come out. And then it was linked to grief with an earlier animal. And so that's also the beauty of the tapping. You can get to the root cause of a lot of things and help remove those unstuck emotions. So that's just one of the things that I love to do. And that has motivated me, I guess, back to the question of continuing to persevere and keep going, because the determination. Back to my first answer.
Oh, forever the seeker of, and I really get the sense that you will acquire, whether it's how to do a sound bath, EFT tapping, you will get the tools that you need so that you can persevere where you need to go.
Yes, I'm determined, and it will happen. And um, the universe, God, higher power, divine love, whatever terminology you have for that which is greater than ourselves, which has created all of us, um, doesn't ever shortchange me, shall we say. I've always been given what I've needed. And I think it's linked for me, it has been just a desire to help, to do good, to heal, to bring, wholeness, to help bring positivity into the world. And I think sometimes if we're willing with that, the tools will be given to us. If we're open to them and willing to receive them, they'll be given to us. That's what I've experienced anyway.
It's such a beautiful way to see the world.
Yeah,
I
my nickname to myself is Pollyanna, I guess. So no, it's I don't want to be stuck in the realm of negativity all the time. I mean, there's enough negativity out there that I don't want my life to be filled with it. So there's no reason for it too. And everybody goes through adversity. Everybody has their stuff that they have to, find their way through in life. And the low times were really low, but if I'd not had them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, and I wouldn't have the joy that I experience today as a result. So,
oh, heart full of gratitude, even for those tough moments.
mm-hmm.
Well, I have to ask because I know the felines do come forward in your book, but is there a, a message you've ever communicated with, whether it's with your own or for a client, that really stood out, whether it was something amazing to impart or something funny or just something completely unexpected that could benefit from sharing?
um, there's a couple funny things. Well, let me see if I can narrow it down to just a couple. um, we had to do a lot of case studies when I was getting my certification to do this. And one of my high school friends, I put out a thing on Facebook, and one of my high school girlfriends I hadn't seen in a while, she said, well, I'd love to have you, talk with my dog and cat. And so one of the things that we asked to do in our training, so we get validation, is to connect with the animal's essence and favorite things. And so my friend's dog, I had, the session, and to receive information telepathically, intuitively, energetically, whatever term you want to use, for this, let's just say telepathically, which is receiving pictures, words, and feelings from the animal. And that's how often, they'll communicate with each other, and how humans did before the advent of language. And that's what we did. So we all have this ability within us. And so I got a song came through my head, and it was called Tiptoe Through the Tulips, an old one from the, 70s, I think. And I was like, my gosh, what's that song doing? And I realized, the dog. And so when I, finished the communication, I said to my friend, does your dog like tulips, or gardening, something in the garden? And she started laughing, and she says, oh, yes, he loves to go outside, and their tulips are in bloom right now. so, so I got the information through a song, and that was just hysterical. Um, then another one happened. One of my girlfriends from here is from an hour away from my hometown in upstate New York. And we met down here, but we both grew up near each other, not knowing each other. at the time, and she moved back up there temporarily while her father was in an assisted living facility, and she brought her two cats with her. And so when I was up visiting my mom, we got together, and she wanted me to communicate with the two cats because they were having a hard time adjusting to the move. And so I did the female first. I went to her house that she was renting, and the male was inside the closet. He hadn't come out for the a few days since they moved there, and so she and my friend was feeling all just distraught because she didn't know what to do with these guys. And so I did the girl first, and then before I even got into the room with the male, and pardon my use of this word because I don't speak like this, but the cat said so clear, why the hell did she do this to me? And the cat was so angry, and I almost kind of started laughing because I don't talk like that. And please excuse me. I hope this is okay for to broadcast, but but I knew that cat was so angry about why they moved, and so I got deeper with the cat, explained why my friend moved, and it was only temporary and that sort of thing. And he eventually adjusted something, and they're back down in this area. But I've never forgotten that because it's like it just came in without even soliciting anything. The cat was so ready to unload and get that anger out. So, and I did do some tapping on them in that situation too, which helped. So, anyway,
It's
never a
so
dull
funny
moment.
because it's so different than you. You know for sure it's not you. And that makes it even
Absolutely.
funnier in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, well, gosh, I don't talk like that. I'm like, ooh, but and I eventually I did a lot of energy healing on this cat, and he since has passed within this past year. But I was happy to help my friend out, and it helped her a lot too. Help them both.
The forward by the felines is hilarious and touching. What inspired you to let the animals speak for themselves?
That was really fun to write. And I was getting ready, really thinking my book was done. And I've had a writing coach that I've worked with, and she suggested that I do more of having the animals, speak throughout the book, my cats speak. And, there's a couple different levels of communication. There's the telepathic where you kind of go in, deep with them. And it's like, well, I can't really sit and do that with every animal, for the book. And it didn't feel right. But then at some point, I just got this idea of having like each chapter start with the feline's voice, collectively, or sometimes it's just one. And I didn't realize I'm actually like channeling what the energy of what those cats would be saying to me pertaining to that chapter. And so it turned into writing something at the start of every chapter from the perspective of the felines and my horse Jake, just like they're writing the book with me, which they were, and it put a whole different dimension on the book. And then I got to writing the foreword, and then it was the same thing. They needed to have their voice, and it was so much fun doing it. And I really feel like I kind of captured their essence and what they would say is collectively as a group. So it's like a different type of, I guess, a channeling or communication.
And honestly, I think that makes your book so unique and so different and adds that layer of, you spoke about negativity and keeping it away, but it's more it adds that layer, I feel, of keeping going in a fun way, finding the threads of like what's worth living almost. Like it keeps your eye on the prize of be here, have some fun with this life in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the sense I got as I'm going through them and reading them. It just won't let you stay in the low. It reminds you.
Oh,
So I thought that was
oh, thank you.
brilliantly done.
Thank you. Yeah, some of it I just had to laugh at when I started just writing down. It's like, these guys, I mean, they really do have a sense of humor. And I think it added a whole dimension of the book that I didn't even know was going to even happen. So I credit my writing coach, Jean Noel, for the inspiration. And then, it just kind of took off from there. And it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of what she meant. But it took a while for us to get to that point. So
And that's you could have never planned at the beginning of the book, but it's perfect.
no, I mean, the entire book I didn't plan at the beginning of the book. Let's put it that way.
So true.
But it was so much fun to write, and like I said, I've been carrying these stories in my head for so many years that it was just good to get them down on paper. So,
Yeah. And on that note, there's so much someone who reads the book could get out of it. And I'm wondering if there's a particular message or conversation that you want to seed into the psyche of your readers to kind of, start doing things differently in their life or spark conversations to
mhm.
make the world a better place. Is there something like that that readers should take away, or is it?
Um, one of the takeaways that I hope happens is that people will feel the freedom to question things if something just doesn't feel right inside, if they're searching for something deeper. And that for me was my spiritual quest. And I have one of the chapters is titled that, my spiritual quest. Um, because I just wasn't, something just never felt right. And it's like there's something more and I don't get it. I'm doing all the things they tell me to do, and I'm still not feeling this connection with the divine that I think is possible, but somehow I'm just not getting it. And I needed to dive in deeper and to be open to receiving information in unorthodox ways, from ways I wouldn't expect it. Um, and I don't, throw out all of my upbringing and my background, but it's become enhanced. And um, I'm just excited for how that all did turn out. Um, so I hope people can, ask their own questions, and even about of their animals, and just start, tuning in more to what's going on inside them with their relationship with their animals, and see if there's a common ground or something that's familiar or something they didn't expect to happen. And so just to be open to the surprises.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
so perfect. Be open to the surprises. Because you're right. Like it's not going the universe doesn't walk in and say, "Oh, here's your lesson for this phase of your life." It is much more, makes you kind of work for it or look for it with different eyes. And that's what I
right.
think is
Yeah.
beautiful. You get people to look with these different eyes in different
Mhm.
areas to catch
Yeah,
catch it, catch the
that's
thing.
it. Yeah, just looking with different eyes. And I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I'm just sharing my own experience, and people can, ask their own questions, come to their own conclusions. And, if I plant a few seeds here and there, or give people permission to be okay with having these, weird thoughts, gosh, animal reincarnation, really? Seriously? Well, maybe there's other people that think that way. And, now I've come across a lot that do, but whether or not you do, that's a sidebar, I guess. I hope people will find my stories entertaining and be able to relate to some of their own, even if they don't have a cat. You don't have to have a cat to like my book. So I happen to, my cats were the tools that helped teach me. And it could have been dogs, it could have been, horses, it could have been many other animals, but it just happened to be the cats with me. So,
Yeah. And it could have been for other people, it's things like poetry books or painting or art. And I love that this
yeah.
was the tool that you found. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so unique and definitely opening of perspectives and widening. Oh, it's going to be
Exactly.
so good to whoever picks up your book.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I hope they enjoyed as much as I enjoyed writing it.
And when does your book launch, and how can people get a copy of it?
We're looking at the end of September. More information will come out with a specific date, and it'll be available off Amazon. I will also have, there should be a link on my website up at that point once we get everything from Amazon in order. And I'll be, happy to mail anybody a copy too if they want a signed copy or whatever. I'll have copies available myself.
Oh my
So,
goodness. You could even do the little paw prints. The cats could sign it. That would be
oh
so
my
fun.
gosh. Okay, another idea. Okay, that I love it.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
And you
Okay.
just mentioned too that you have a website for those who want to know where to find you, whether it's to book you in for an animal communication session, because I'm, raising my hand for that, or just to keep following you and see what you're up to. Where could they go?
Okay, so the website is thepetconnector.com. It's easy to remember. And then through Facebook, I'm Kathy Boyer, spelt the same as my title or name on the book. I don't have a middle name or anything that's on my Facebook page, just Kathy Boyer. And those are two good starting points. Also, my email address, it's in my website, but it's kathych@drnetwork.com. So you can email me directly also. I'm happy to
Amazing.
talk with anybody about any of this. I loved talking with people about it, and I can't wait to do book signings later on so I can meet people in person. And
You're gonna have so much fun.
yeah,
And
I
we're
think
gonna
so.
make sure that we have the proper links somewhere. This video could live in any number of platforms. So whether it's above, on each side, or below, it'll be there. And my
Okay.
gosh, Kathy, I am so excited for your book. I can't wait for it to come out. Just wanted to say a big thank you for talking to us about it. And I'm sure we can go on for much, much longer because it's just so fun.
Thank you. And Sally is really happy to be a part of this too.
Oh, I saw her perk up a couple of times over there,
Uh-huh.
but it was good to have Sally too.
Thank you. Yep.
Bye for
This
now,
particular
everyone. Thank you for
soul,
tuning in.
this particular soul has a lot of timing. Just a little hint. So
Oh, there's something special about Sally in the book. You guys are gonna have to find out the long way by reading it.
thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Sally, and thank you everyone for joining us today.